Thank you for tuning in to Cop with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're with comic David Hoj. David Hoj, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. How's everything over there?
Oh, it's going good. Thank you so much for coming on. I know I follow you online. Your Instagram, you're Dave Hoj, and you're
Yes,
also davehoj.com. And let's check you out on Twitter. Twitter, you are the Hodger, the Hojer.
correct. How are you? How's everything?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for coming on. Dude, on Instagram, you got some mad engagement on a recent video you did. You did a wrestling promo?
Yeah, there's a wrestler named Crowbar. He's a independent guy out of Jersey. He's done some stuff with WCW in the past, and he's looking to break into AEW. And a friend of mine's like, hey, he's doing this promo. Do you want to help out with this? And I'm like, yeah, why the hell not? What else do I got going on? You know what I mean?
I'll get hit. I'll be hilarious. I'll be hilarious to the tune of 97,000 views.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to do that, but hey, why not? You never know what's going to hit.
Yeah, well, I like that attitude. Like some people just say yes to a lot of things, and that's why they come on the podcast. And it's just like the more shit you say yes to, it's an opportunity maybe to be exposed to 97,000 people. And I see the pin here is South Beach, Miami, Florida. Is that where he's kind of based?
No, he's out of Jersey, and so am I. And I'm just a wise ass that I was actually wearing in the video. I'm wearing a robe that I got at South Beach. So I just wanted to stick with the theme that was going on. I was having fun, and I'm living the lavish life. And
it does look like it. Yeah, it does look like South Beach, Miami. But you're allowed to kind of choose where you want the location to be. They don't check that location data, do they?
Well, they try and pin you down. I'm like, no, this is good. You know what it is. A lot of times Instagram will try to pinhole you to where you are, and as long as you keep trying to type out where you are, because some people don't upload their pictures till later anyway, so they had to make it a little bit easier.
Well, dude, I love the fact that you're just a fucking you got to go with that, man. Like, is there a role for you in that wrestling game?
No, not at all. But who am I to say no to sitting around drinking champagne?
But I look at that still right there, and I'm like, dude, this is a cool looking motherfucker. And if you're funny too, all those stand-ups that they, all those, what do they call it? Where they get in front of Ed McMahon or whatever, and they're talking shit to the other wrestler. What is that called? I mean, if you're a funny guy, you'd be amazing at that.
Well, if I was talking to Ed McMahon, it'd be a big problem because I'd be dead as well.
But what's that guy's called? Yeah, Vince. Well, there's Vince McMahon, but also Gene the Weasel guy. What the fuck was Gene Okerlund or some shit? Mean Gene Okerlund.
He's alive, but I missed that little crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah, Mean Gene.
I was a fan back in the day of Roddy Piper, so
Yes.
that was the whole wheelhouse. Before Hulkamania, I liked him, and then I got to meet him, and he said, "Never meet your heroes," and it literally threw me off, and I hated him since.
No, was it that bad?
Oh yeah, I was a kid, and I wanted to get his autograph. And he, at the time, he was like a bad guy, still pre-Hulkamania. And one of those high school wrestling events, and he was wrestling Andre the Giant. I'm like, two people I really like, but here comes the Hulkster, because my dad, he gave me the wisdom to root for the bad guys sometimes. And I started enjoying that. I'm like, yeah, Hulk Hogan, he's the bad guy, woo! And then all of a sudden, he wouldn't give me an autograph. It kind of like nudged me out of the way. Yeah. And my dad got arrested trying to fight him. It was a lot of fun. Great childhood memory.
I love that, because now you're making those same childhood memories for your kid because you're a single dad. I love that.
Yeah, no, it has some challenges, but overall, it's been a blessing. It's not only saved me for a life of crime overall, but.
But it sounds like, I have a friend who's a guitar, my guitarist friend has some kids, and, he's not single dad, but, just talking to him about the things that you want, trying to get the kid interested in the right things, or make sure they don't get interested in the wrong things, like even to the point where he's like, I like math, she's going to be, it's helpful to be good at math. Let me try to encourage some of this math stuff. How do you make sure that you get your kid into, I don't know, rooting for the good guy, or liking wrestling, and turning them off a certain interest that you don't think will be, kind of helpful to a productive life?
It may seem kind of modern, but it's kind of old fashioned, I think, because I try to listen, I try to listen to see what the interests are.
Yeah.
And if it's, you got to try and siphon out what are the real interests, what aren't the real interests.
Yeah.
And my son, since he was in the crib, wanted to like sing and dance, and then he started like mimicking commercials on TV. He wanted to be an actor. I'm like, all right, well, you're 5, you want to be an actor, I get it. And then yeah, he was interested in sports and all these other things. I'm like, so I tried to encourage all the things he liked, and he's actually a SAG actor at this point.
Oh
So
my Lord.
he's going to wind up being way more better than I am.
Yeah, I think I see. Is this a picture of you and him at the Yankee Stadium?
Yeah, that's us, man.
Yeah, he's a good-looking cat. You did well, so I think that'll serve him. And does he have his SAG card before you do?
He's got the SAG card for a couple of years now. Yeah,
Wow.
he's got the success, you know what I mean? So I can't wait till, be his chauffeur one day.
Dude, at least making a comedy short film about being his chauffeur. I could buy that. Like that's, like, have you ever roped him into your comedy videos?
Uh, I have not written him into any of them. Although with my stand-up, I do reference some conversations that me and him have had, because kids will be very honest with you, and sometimes it's very hysterical, and sometimes people misunderstand what you're saying, and they're not realizing that you're talking through the voice of a child. Like, hey, that's the most horrible thing I've ever heard. I'm like, oh, calm down, listen to what I said.
Yeah.
It's not what you think. I'm not that awful of a human being. Well,
Yeah.
anymore.
It's,
But
I'm just reciting what my kid said to me.
yeah, I know. There was basically I have one joke where it's literally a masturbation joke, but it's from the point of view of my son, and
Ah,
people are like, "Oh my God, that's the most awful thing I ever heard." I'm like, I'm not talking about my son doing. My son's bringing up a reference here, and I think it's fucking hysterical. So
yes. Yeah, I mean, and
some
as
people, what they want to hear, and you can't stop people from doing that.
yeah, and I mean, you do comedy all over the place. I see, you're on some New York City stages and of course New Jersey. And I mean, have
Yeah.
you ever said anything, on a big stage that would embarrass your son? Like, does he come watch you, or does he see you after the fact in video form? And any masturbation material he gave you is like, dude, what the fuck, Dad?
Well, first of all, one of the reasons, like, he always wanted to do the TV thing, and then the one day he saw me watching him back, watching me, one of my videos as I was watching on the TV. He's like, "How would you get on TV?" And me being, I don't want to be a hypocrite, so I'm like, "All right, listen, this is actually a comedy. I'm not actually on TV. This is just being streamed on the TV at the moment." So,
Yeah.
and he's like, "All right." And then the questions started, and I'm like, "All right, first of all, calm down." And then I took him to some, like, I had to sit him down and have the conversation. I'm like, "Listen, I may say some things. They're jokes." And
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I get it." I'm like, "Okay," because I may say something that's a conversation we had. It's a joke. He's like, "No, I get it," and he has a better sense of humor than I do, which is good. So,
But I
you know,
love the fact that you could just fucking play, you're playing a streaming video on TV and you're like, look, son, I'm on TV and I'm talking shit about your masturbation. That's funny.
actually, that wasn't the joke at the time, but it was before he told me that jokes. But by the time I got to him, like, listen, because he'll say something. I'm like, if I said it this way, could I use it on stage? He goes, yeah. I'm like, all right, done.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I wonder if he'll ever get too big for that to be the case. Like, it's like, Dad, dude, I'm huge now. Don't fucking, keep embarrassing me with this shit. But it's like, dude, stop saying stupid stuff, son.
Yeah. Well, I told him, like, listen, I mean, I may stop using the one bit. He's like, don't do it on my account. He's like, I don't care. I like that one. I'm like, all right. I'm like,
He's like, I like that one, Dad. I want you to eat. You're a working comic, man. Keep the funny in.
right. Well, not only that, he was like 10 at the time. So, the perspective of a 10-year-old, and then somebody sees like, oh yeah, my son's 20 now. Well, he's 17 now, but it's like, oh well, yeah, he's a grown up now. You're going to talk about grown up stuff like this, and just people get more weirded out. So I'm like, you sure you're okay with that?
And I mean, is
He's
that,
like, no. He's telling me go ahead, run with it. I'm like, all right.
yeah, and I guess when a crowd member reacts in a certain way, and you're like, pretty much fuck off because that's what my kid said, and my kid was 10 at the time. Like, do you notice that any of the comedy audiences are different between New Jersey and New York City, or even online now?
Yeah, oh, the online, I'm definitely not a big fan of. New York and New Jersey, the audience is the one main difference. If you're doing something in Manhattan, you're mostly getting tourists.
Okay.
As you get out to Brooklyn and stuff, you get some better audiences. And some people are like, oh, they seem too uptight, and I'm like, yeah, if you're funny, it's not going to matter. If you say something that makes somebody laugh, no matter what you're saying, you should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how can you?
And
Because I love that you said your son has a sense of humor and you don't. Like,
Oh,
I
no,
mean, I
I'm
like that.
just
Somebody can be
so
serious in real life. Like even like I think what's his name from the Lonely Island? Plays Jake Peralta on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I guess he's very serious about his craft, but he's just so hilarious and silly on camera. Like, is that pretty much the case where you're fairly serious in real life? And how can that be? Like, how come you're not just laughing and cracking jokes all day long and you save it for the stage?
well, I used to be, a very out there type of person before, fatherhood.
Mhm.
And I had to, once I was a parent and tried to be responsible and do the day job and try and be responsible there, that not that it stopped me from cracking jokes at work, but, I definitely, in the work environment, you have to kind of tone it down. It's like, okay, you got to be somewhat serious, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just can't help yourself. And it's like, oh my God, look at it. I was talking to a coworker about a customer's location, and we were like, "Where is that?" And you Google Map stuff because it's 2020 and you could do that about stuff.
Yeah.
And the guy was in upstate New York, and he lives around the corner called the Church of the Little Green Men, which I think is freaking hysterical. And then, of course, I have to look into it,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh my God, there's actually statues. It's like a weird fake totem pole of aliens." And I thought this was the greatest thing ever. I may have to take a ride soon.
Really? Is there a fucking statue of Little Green Men on the corner of Little Green Men?
In front of a church. Yes, I can't. I got to. And then as soon as I said that, my friend started reading reviews. It's like, well, they weren't open for any services, but the guy let me come in and take a tour. I'm like, I got to go take a tour now. I definitely got to drive up.
Did you end up driving upstate for Little Green Man?
I literally, this is something that happened on Friday. I have not gone yet. I got it's kind of, I'm definitely not doing that kind of traveling on a holiday weekend. But,
Okay. I love that. It's a stay-at-home order unless you need to go upstate to see Little Green Man.
I just, if I don't have to be in traffic, I don't want to.
Yeah. So when you're not talking about your son on stage, like what other stuff is making its way into your act? Either when you started, Lynn, how does that relate to your comedy influences? Like how did you start? Like what kind of jokes were you telling to start? And did you rip off your comedy influences then? And how over time have you gotten more real so that it's more of a David Hodge thing?
Well, I mean, it started, I had my influences early on were like Pryor, Carlin, Eddie Murphy, Dice, and
Yeah.
just being that very forward, very vulgar type thing. Tried doing that and just being vulgar for the sake of vulgar. I found out very quickly not how to go. So
Yeah,
as I
because
kept trying to,
the audience isn't into all that vulgarity unless it is rooted in truth or something.
right, vulgarity for the sake of vulgarity is never good. If it's an adjective, sure.
Yeah.
And the problem is I learned how to curse from my mother, and her 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 vulgarity was so bad. My dad hated it. It was like that.
Yeah. That's
So
funny. And
yeah.
does she make her way into your act? Do you talk about her cursing like a sailor on stage?
I have done it. I don't do it too often. I don't like doing that on stage because I have to have something really super prepared for that because my mom just died a couple of years ago, so I'm trying not to keep that focus on it. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it the upbeat, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, like even right after she died, I came up with a couple of weird ones, because she did have some dementia and stuff. I'm like, well, because the doctors used to ask me, well, when did she start forgetting stuff? I'm like, that bitch has remembered shit my whole life. What are you talking about? Which is true, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
after a while, it's like I don't want to dig too deep into that wound, and so I try and stick with the wounds that I enjoy.
So yeah, so what are the wounds that you enjoy?
Uh, my childhood nickname was Pirate, and it was based off of me being kicked out of summer camp at the age of 4
Wow.
for actually bringing in real weapons.
How
So
the fuck? Oh my Lord. How are you bringing real weapons into a summer camp at the age of 4?
I was dressed. It was a Halloween in July party, and I wanted to be
Ah,
a pirate.
yeah.
So my dad wound up going to jail earlier that week. So my mom decided to, she had to do it all on her own that week and get me ready. And she made me a little wooden sword, and I thought it was adorable. I was like, yeah, I can't wait. And of course, I remembered my dad actually has real guns and swords. So yeah, I knew how to get into the gun closet at 4. Boom. And I was asked to never come back again.
So the wooden sword wasn't good enough, so you raid daddy's weapons closet because he's in jail at the time, and you bring a real fucking sword to summer camp at the age of 4?
And oddly enough, a real cap and ball gun like the actual pirates used.
Wow. Why did they
Because
kick you out over that? Come on.
yeah, I know. I mean, what's wrong with kids should be able to keep it real, is what I'm saying.
That's fucking crazy, man. And it's like, dude, getting kicked out of summer camp after your dad goes to jail. It's like it's just pouring salt in my wound here. You should have
Well,
said that at the age of 4. It's like, come on, my dad just went to jail. Give me this.
I didn't get to do that much because all the counselors brought me home and they were
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're gonna have to leave you here. Now, my mother wasn't home, so I had to have that lecture when she got in because it was the '70s and you were allowed to be a latchkey kid and just walk home on your own at 4 and
Oh
make
my
sure
gosh, at 4.
yeah, the
I,
good old days.
I was latchkey at 14. You were latchkey at 4. How is that possible?
Well, my summer camp literally was in the projects right next to our house,
Oh my
so
gosh. It's the projects. Dude, you guys haven't seen a sword before?
not on 4-year-olds, I guess. I don't know.
The sword's bigger than you. Oh my gosh, I love that. And it's like, I guess your son, he's kind of on the straight and narrow as far as, he's got a good acting career or whatever. So he
He's way
was it kind of relief to see that he didn't bring a sword to summer camp at the age of 4?
He didn't have to go to summer camp. I made sure of that. But I mean, he thank God he's nowhere near as awful as a human being as I was back then, and you know that
But
was just the
that
tip of the iceberg for me, getting brought home by friends, neighbors, teachers, cops.
Yeah, so that kind of continued after the age of 4 where and it's such where you can talk about it on stage right now.
Literally in the last year and a half, I've been feeling more comfortable talking about that.
Oh,
Just
cool.
because, first of all, not everybody finds the humor in it like I do. And I like I said, my older influences were those guys, but like I've been watching a lot of Rogan and Joey Diaz, and
Yeah.
Joey Diaz grew up in Hudson County like I did. So
Okay.
when he starts talking about it, and he makes me feel more free to talk about myself like that. Like
That's
I didn't think like because a lot of times like I say stuff and I have people look at me like, what the fuck's wrong with him? And so I try to not really do that, and even whether it's on stage or in person now, especially after the year we're having right here,
yeah.
I don't give a fuck about anything. I could care less.
The
As
pandemic has freed you up.
between the pandemic and like just life itself, I'm like, fuck everything. If the world's gonna end, it's gonna end. Let's have some fun in the ride.
Wow. I can't wait to hear the comedy post-pandemic of David Hoj. Like, have you written new fuck it material, or is it just like allowing you to mine those early experiences and that's why your writing has changed recently over the last year?
Definitely a little bit of both. I was doing some stuff based on just me being a dad because literally that's for the most part all I had. Trying to earn some money, keep a house over the head, make sure we have food, and
Yeah.
be a dad. And
Yeah.
my comedy was based off stuff like that. And now it's like now I have a little more free time, and my son drives and does his own thing now. He's starting school Wednesday, uh,
Right.
so it's like a lot of fun that I'm like, oh wow, he goes to his job, after school, and he goes to work and school, and I'm like, wow, I have all this time now. This is so weird. It's a new experience, and on top of that, now that I have time to sit around and do some more writing and dig into more topics, I'm like, hey, I could do some therapy and some writing and have some fun with it.
But dude, I mean, I think your fans, it's like a whiplash. It's like, did you hear, oh, last time I saw David Hodge, he was talking about being a single dad. It was all fairly innocent. And now he's talking about bringing a sword to preschool when he's 4.
Yeah, he was talking about dick jokes. Now he's talking about real crime incidents. I'm like, ah,
Yeah, get used to it, motherfuckers. I'm David Hodge, bitch.
pretty much. Well, you know what it is. I started working on some stuff because people are like, hey, tell some more. I had a couple of my comedy influences that like I've worked with locally that is like, hey, when you tell a story, those stories are better than some of your short one-liners. You need to start working on.
Uh,
I'm like, all
that's
right.
cool.
So which has also helped me because you can relate to it more. They were saying you're definitely more relatable when you're conversational, and I'm like, oh, and like so I had some influences saying, hey, do more of this anyway, of people
Wow.
that I know and respect. I'm like, all right, I could do that.
It's like,
And
yeah, it's like, why didn't you come along sooner, man?
no, well, they were watching me do some of this, but then like when you're telling jokes off stage, some of that stuff's better than the stuff that's on stage. You should do more of that. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And
Yeah.
the first couple of people that you don't really get along with that tell you that you're not really paying attention. And then you hear from people that you really like and respect in the business, like, done, I'll do that.
And
And you,
the audience response was according, like it was a correspondingly good audience response.
yeah, it actually has, I've seen that change too. So I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty good. I'm like, all right, let me
Wow.
get some more of that. And, like, I would talk about how my dad, when I was like 12, told me that I was too much of a pussy to handle real jail, make sure I go to college. So if I wind up in jail, it'll be a white collar prison and I don't have to worry about anything.
That's solid, man. That's solid.
Yeah. And it's like, it's realistic, and you can look at me because I'm a pudgy old guy. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I love it because it's also that commentary on how society works. It's the white collar, the college graduates, they go to white collar jail, which is like a country club.
Yeah. My dad's like, and it's weird because I went from being that one kid that felt weird on the 3-hour bus ride to go visit my dad, and to being the weird guy who's like, well, I don't like talking about that because people look at me weird. Now I don't give a fuck what you think.
Yeah. Let's talk about it because it's super interesting. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
we want to hear these interesting stories from your childhood, and it's in, are you disappointed that you didn't kind of go to this forever fountain sooner, where you're like, I was sitting on this gold all this time, man, I could have mined it sooner, or you just relieved that you finally stumbled upon it?
I had somebody tell me this about 4 years ago, and I should have listened to her back then, and I tried to, but I was still trying to stick with the mentality of, hey, set up, punch, tag, boom, go, keep working this out, and trying to just do the quick hit part. Whereas if I, develop when you're doing a story, it's a lot harder to do that and tell like a 10-minute story. So, trying to figure out which ones will work, which ones I could shorten, which ones I could expand on. That I've been tinkering with for like the last year and a half. Just trying to and do what I already do that I know works. So
yeah, well, it sounds like you have the chops to do it. So it's good that you finally kind of stumbled upon it, because you're like, well, now I have the chops to make sure the 8-minute story can be appropriately funny. And so yeah, we follow you. We can't wait to hear the new criminal shit, the stuff from your background that might have been a little bit too dark before, and the fact that you got the comedy chops to do it. Can't wait to see it. And you're here on
fun stuff.
Yeah, so you're here on Twitter. I think you are the Hodger, the Hojer on Twitter, and you're Dave Hoj on Instagram, and you're also DaveHoj.com.
Yes.
Perfect. I can't wait to see your shit, David Hoj. Thank you so much.
And also, I just wanted to plug my podcast.
Yeah, please do.
Uncomfortably Funny, and on Twitter it's at Uncomfortably Funny FU.
So it's Uncomfortably Funny on both Twitter and Instagram, or no?
Uncomfortably FU. I apologize. Uncomfortably Instagram.
So I'm gonna check this out. Uncomfortable. I love that name. And so, what can we expect from your next episode? When does it drop?
Our next episode is the 14th, Monday the 14th. We'll be streaming live on Facebook. We'll be uploading it afterwards. It's our 4th anniversary show. So it's literally just going to be us kind of just dicking around, having some fun with each other.
Okay, so and you and other comics?
It's me and 2 other comics that host the podcast. We're going to have a couple other comics that are dropping in studio that day. A couple other ones that are going to send some. We're going to be calling for some people to send some videos and say happy anniversary and call us dicks and stuff and
Yeah. So you've been around for
the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, you've been around for four years, it looks like, and thousands of followers, and you also have uncomfortablyfunny.com.
Yes.
Dude, fucking amazing, dude. Yeah, I can't believe we waited till the end to talk about it, but I'm glad you did. And so the next episode is dropping when?
Monday the 14th.
Yeah.
Go watch it live on Facebook and streaming, and we usually download it after that.
Oh, fucking cool. Uncomfortably Funny, David Hoj, thank you so much.
Not a problem, man. Good talking to you. I'll talk to you soon.